You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz, and Mr. Reality himself, James Stevens Valliant, is
I like
here.
that.
Yeah,
I like
Mr.
that.
Reality himself.
Mr. Reality.
I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend, a long weekend. Coming up on The Rational Egoist, I should have had an episode on productiveness with somebody, but the person canceled on me.
And then volunteered to be here this morning to compensate. Wasn't
Jim,
that
I wasn't
incredibly
naming.
justified?
I wasn't naming names.
Oh, well. Yeah.
But I think we will have that up soon. Meanwhile, Mark Pellegrino told me he's going to be here, and he just texted me to tell me he's still in a reading. Evidently, he has some kind of a job. I don't know. But either way, we're in good hands. We got a lot of things to talk about. Please follow us on Twitch, on YouTube. The channel's The Rational Alternative. We have all kinds of stuff going on over there, different programs, different content. Members get special content. So a lot of good things going on. Merchandise, Persephone is yelling at me to talk about, so I did.
Merch.
So, Jim, what's happening with you? Wait, first, before I ask that, I just want to say I had an awesome experience. On Sunday morning, I asked Diana, do you want to do anything today? And she said, I don't care. I don't care. I said, well, if we're going to do what I want to do, we're going to Ayn Rand's grave. And it's only an hour and 50 minutes from here. And what a beautiful experience that was. You know, graveyards, but the symbolism is powerful. That it's Ayn Rand, one of my absolute heroes. It was a great experience in a beautiful cemetery. And I got to call Jim Valliant, FaceTime him while at the grave, and we discussed some objectivist stuff. So that was awesome too. Now, Jim, you can tell us how you're going. If anybody really cares, I don't know.
I'm not sure that anyone really cares. To the extent they do, let's see. Health issues, all kinds of issues, but there you are. I had a lovely weekend though. Yesterday, 8 hot dogs with Leonard Peikoff. So how Americana can you get? Beat that. So
Nicole says she cares how Jim Valliant is doing.
thank you, Nicole.
And Jenna Kleem gives us $5. She says have dollars. Oh yes, thank you for reminding me about the super chats and the super stickers. Appreciate it very, very much. So Ian Gilmore actually hints at what we're going to get at first here today. We're going to discuss a little Iran. I put the Monty Hall president, and I'm hoping that people get the reference. Maybe I'm just dating myself, but I know Jim got it.
That I did, because I'm old. As you can see from the gray hair, I would get the Mr. Monty Hall. Let's make a deal where everyone dressed up in costumes and picked door, box number 1 or door number 2 or whichever, and they got either the zonk, the zinger, the joke prize, or they got a real prize.
Door number 1. There's some interesting stuff related to probability on that show. When they start off with three doors you can choose from, and they ask you to pick one, and then they eliminate one of the remaining ones and ask you if you want to change, and probability says you should change.
Yeah,
you should change. It's interesting. It's a little difficult to get the mind around, but whatever. Mark says he'll be here in about 15 minutes. So Ian Gilmore says on your own show yesterday, he was asked if Liebowitz was right all along about the war in Iran, and Yaron's ultimate answer was yes. So what Yaron, we're going to post a clip from him in a second, but what he said is partly because he misunderstood my position. It's understandable. I don't think that Yaron is following me on social media to see what I have to say about Iran. But he was under the impression that I said it couldn't work because it was unconstitutional. But when I told him no, my position was I opposed it because it was unconstitutional, and secondarily because of who the leader is, because I thought there was a good chance Trump would screw it up. Yaron was very honest, and he said, well, then you were right, and I think it's commendable, and I think the way that he handled this whole thing on his show is commendable because, look, we all can be wrong at times, right? Everybody, even Jim. Right?
What?
So,
what?
But the thing to do when that happens, the thing to do is not to dig in our heels and just start defending nonsense. It's just to say, you know what, I was wrong. And then we move on with our lives and we learn. But I'm going to take this down. I'm going to play one of Yaron's clips, not the one related to me, just what he had said earlier.
I underestimated the extent to which, Trump is... can't think, I think is the right way to put it without being too insulting. Can't think, can't plan, can't strategize. And look, this comes from somebody who has a very, very, very low opinion of Trump. And yet it wasn't low enough. And I apologize. I apologize to all of you guys because I should have seen this coming. I should have been anti this war because I should have seen that Trump has the unique ability to take a situation in which it's almost impossible to contemplate how Iran doesn't get dramatically weaker and how the United States can at least partially win, even if not a complete victory. And I couldn't see how he could actually lose this war and end it with Iran stronger. Now, why?
So I think he's spot on in his analysis. He also talked about how Trump should have gone to Congress, that ultimately it was unconstitutional. He also made the point that when you go to Congress, you have a better shot of bringing the American people in.
See, that was the kind of argument you made. You did say there was a relationship between the constitutionality and the war.
Oh,
but
sure, yeah.
But you didn't. In other words, had we gone to Congress, that would have clarified our goals. That would have clarified the issues. That may have actually put some, because Congress has the power to do so, defining the nature of the conflict and the enemy. And that would have all been helpful. But you never made the point that because it's unconstitutional, it will necessarily fail as a military,
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately he has it right, and that's good.
Well, look at what's happening right now. I mean, Iran is the Islamic Republic's going to survive. It now knows it can blackmail the world with the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to be able to claim a propaganda victory. And so it delays their missiles. So we took out a bunch of, and that's the most I can say right now, not having the intelligence, a bunch of their missiles. But what prevents China and Russia from helping them redevelop their military program? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. So it'd be a total loss. And look at all that Trump is willing to put up. So there's this crossfire going on right now. We see boats laying mines. So we hit the boats, they hit back. So then we hit them with where the missiles come from. But it's all defensive. Don't you know? And the ceasefire is holding. This is a ceasefire. Oh, with the aggression in the Strait of Hormuz, that didn't break the ceasefire. Lobbing more missiles at the United Arab Emirates, that didn't break the ceasefire. And now, of course, this is just defensive action going on around the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, there's no goddamn ceasefire at all. The Iranians are still thumping their chests, saying that, of course, they've won and they're going to win. Sending out the message, we are the winners. We are the champions, in effect. That old Queen song.
Yeah, Trump comes out and says, we're ready for a great deal. And they come out and say, fuck you, we're not close to anything, pussy, basically is what they say.
Right. They're playing him for a fool.
Right. Now, we had these attacks, like you mentioned. I called the episode the Monty Hall President. I'm hoping people understand the references to Let's Make a Deal, because that's what Trump seems to be obsessed with more than anything, Jim, is the idea of making a deal.
Deals solving anything. There is no such thing as a good deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Let me just repeat that. There is no such thing as a, quote, good deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, I know that philosophically challenges his position that deals can solve, negotiation with no matter how monstrous or irrational a dictator will solve anything. And he's perfectly willing to, praise dictators to get those deals. I mean, he's got a great relationship with Xi, don't you know? And all he has to do is massage Putin the right way and he'll get whatever he wants from him, don't you know? No, Mr. Trump, deals are not the answer to everything. The world is not a real estate negotiation. War is certainly not a real estate negotiation.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to speculate because that's all I can do, really. But it's based on an abundance of evidence. I think that Trump vastly underestimated the Iranians, vastly overestimated his own ability, and overestimated what the Iranian population were going to do. He never anticipated that they would hold out even after their the upper echelons of the leadership were wiped out. He just thought, I'm Donald Trump. I'll get this done. And when it didn't, he just keeps claiming victory and victory and victory.
Worse, he thought his threats, his, unconditional surrender, I'm going to wipe out a civilization. He thought that those empty threats, I'll destroy the bridge. There'll be bridge and electric grid day. Remember that? Okay, he thought that his threats would actually have an impact on these mystic monsters who were perfectly willing to slaughter tens of thousands of their own civilians to maintain power.
Now, there's Trump, also, Jim, there's this idea that floats, and it seems to be true, that Trump listens to the last person he talks to, right? Now, he was first bragging about this big deal he was getting ready to make, and then the war hawks came out and criticized it, which, I mean, look, I think they were right to criticize it. I disagree that he should have went to war, but the idea that he's going to strike some great deal with them is just ludicrous. And I think he can't handle the criticism. So then he comes back to, we're going to blow him up. Then someone's going to ultimately tell him, Mr. Trump, that's not a good idea. And he's going to go back to deal making. There was an article that I sent you, and it was about Hayek. And it talked about the knowledge problem that people may or may not know about Hayek's idea about knowledge being dispersed in society. And the article talked about how war ultimately is a top-down operation, and there's a lot of unknowns, uncertainties, and things that can go wrong. All the more so when you have an incompetent, unprincipled leader who's prone to whims. Do you think that's an accurate portrayal, Jim?
Well, an accurate portrayal of the article. Hayek, look, the free market price system, for example, operates through millions of players, and no supercomputer can yet match. I doubt it'll ever be able to match because people's values change from moment to moment.
Right.
But the point is that planning an economy from the top down, is a bunch of principles, though, Professor Hayek, that we can apply. And so here, the knowledge is radical skepticism I have to pull back on when it comes to war. The Romans did really well for century after century after century. And even after the long nightmare of Christian rule in Europe, we call the Dark and Middle Ages, the ruins of that empire laid the foundations for what would come later. So the point, though, is that you can control outcomes. There have been successful military operations. World War II was a successful military operation. It's true there are unknowns. And I'll go even further, Michael. The strategy that I would have had, because I do and still do support a proper war with Iran, if done properly. And it would have been wrapped up by now. We would have had bridge and electric grid day weeks ago. Okay. And but I grant you that holding back from boots on the ground, which is what I would have tried. I would have tried eliminating them from the air as much as possible. And obviously Trump was pulling his punches all over the place. All these targets that he talks about, theoretical targets that he never hit, for example. He admits it, in effect. But I grant you that the strategy of no boots on the ground that I would have followed would have had more Hayekian unknowns. Because then you'd say, well, okay, you can take out the government and shatter the Islamic Republic government. But then what happens in Iran afterwards? There's chaos. What are the Iranian people going to do? So I fully admit, Michael, to you that even my approach of a no pull your punches, hit them hard and wipe them out quickly, and do not do not try and make a deal with these evil monsters. He thought the Venezuela model might be applicable here, when of course it can't. But the point, though, is that, I concede that there are unknowns in any action that we take. The future is impossible to predict. On the other hand, there have been militaries that have done, look at how long some of those Chinese dynasties lasted. Look at the success Islam had in spreading from the Atlantic to the Pacific across Eurasia and Africa. Absolutely stunning. And you can control that if you're willing to do what it takes. We were willing to do what it takes in World War II. We are obviously not willing to do what it takes here.
Well, but Jim, let me just, I don't even disagree with you. I just want to kind of digitize what we're talking about. That's the word I'm going to go with. So when wars are taking place, normally it's government against government. So it's top down against top down. So the fact that one side succeeds doesn't necessarily disprove what we're discussing as far as the knowledge problem. I also don't think that the knowledge problem means you never go to war. Sometimes you just have to, and that's all. Also, if you're willing to use the sort of, if you set the goal, for instance, Japan must surrender, and then you say, we're going to do whatever it takes and drop atomic bombs, that you can accomplish. But trying to, Mark Pellegrino has joined us from Parts Unknown, but trying to set, like you said, even if you send in troops, if the goal is simply get rid of the Iranian regime, that can be done. But everything that comes after, I think, is part of the knowledge problem that we're talking about. So I'm not disagreeing with you.
With Japan, we were going to, and we did it with West Germany too. We will be here for a while, kids, and we're going to be here as long as it takes to change the landscape on the ground. We're going to denazify West Germany. We are going to take out the Shinto emperor worship that causes you guys to be suicidal fanatics. We are going to impose, and we'll be there for 7 years if necessary. Now, if you're not willing to make that investment, then of course you can't control the knowledge problem to any real satisfactory outcome, can you? But we effectively dealt with the knowledge problem after World War II. And so a little pushback on the radical Hayekian skepticism. It's funny, because even with respect to economics, he's perfectly willing to articulate a set of universal principles which apply to economics, right? Which incorporate the fact that people are numerous and have changing values. So I reject Hayekian skepticism as such.
I do too, but I don't think that this particular point, Jim, is Hayekian skepticism. Because I think that maybe your knowledge is bringing too much to this equation. All right, Mark, you got to put mute, Mark, because you're killing us. he's typing, whatever.
Let's involve Mark. Hello, Mr.
Well, he's typing. Give him a minute. I just want to go say something. In Hayek's book, for instance, The Counter-Revolution of Science, he talks about the limits of reason and all that stuff. So you're absolutely right
and
about
the fatal
that.
conceit. You
the
want to
fatal
really
conceit,
off
right?
Hayek, yeah,
sure. But his point about knowledge being dispersed amongst is absolutely correct.
Yeah,
that's
and
correct.
I concede right up front that my approach to Iran would have had a bunch of Hayekian unknowns as to what would happen in Iran if we just took out the government and let it go.
All right.
There's still a chance that we've weakened I don't think it's probable, but there's still a chance that we've weakened the Islamic Republic enough that the people can rise up. I doubt it.
Sure. It's not over.
And the CIA and Mossad might have been able to control some of those Hayekian unknowns too.
They've been wrong enough to where I'm not.
Well, that's
confident.
true, but our intelligence might have nudged the situation on the ground.
Sure, and look, it's not over. You're absolutely right. Trump tomorrow could wake up and decide to do anything. The point is whatever he does is whim. It's not based on strategic planning, thinking. If he does get it right, it's just because
to be as fair as I can to Mr. Trump. I think it is the typical overreaction to recent history, and so people will say history is like a pendulum. It's a pendulum because what tends to happen is people tend to be reactive to the failure of the past. And so these long drawn out wars in Afghanistan and Iraq to try and nation build were a giant failure. And Trump walked into it but like a child whose hand had been burned on the stove is most important. Okay, I'll have to do something about Iran, but the one thing I must avoid is a forever war like Afghanistan. And of course, what we have is an overreaction the other way that dovetails with his deal-making proclivities.
Sure.
So
I'm going to get the last word on this, and then I'm going to bring Mark in. I think that the mistake that you're making, Jim, and I think that you make this same mistake, and it affects sometimes your analysis when Trump is involved. I think your desire perhaps to be fair, I think you don't recognize the extreme difference between Donald Trump and all that came before him. I think that when you say, well, it's because of what happened before and he doesn't, I don't think that Trump thinks along those lines. I don't think he's the same. It's like when I studied the criminal mind, for instance, they made sure to tell us about the continuum. So sure, a person that steals a pen is a thief and a person that robs a bank is a thief. So you could say they're both thieves, but the bank robber is much different. So we could say, yes, Trump is a liar like all other politicians. Trump violates rights like other politicians. Trump is, not rational like other politicians. But I just think that he's so far over on the continuum that it messes things up. But now that's it. We're going to get Mark now, Jim. You don't get to get the last word. Mark, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? And where the hell are you? Nobody knows, and everybody's wondering.
I was just in Lithuania over the weekend. I got back on Monday, went right to class, and then after class to jiu-jitsu, and then after jiu-jitsu, I limped home from the metro station about 2 blocks from our house. I'm still in Paris, baby.
Weren't you in Lithuania this morning?
No, I was in Lithuania Monday morning. I took a plane at 7:15, which meant I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning to take that plane. I didn't have sleep the night before. That's the way it seems to roll with me now. Very little sleep. I've slept 2 full nights since I've been here in Europe.
Oh, here we go.
But you're used to that. You're like, you don't sleep.
Yeah, cry me a river. Listen, what are your thoughts, though, on this whole Iran situation?
Look, I didn't have a chance to listen to Yaron's Come to Jesus moment, but I can't wait to hear it because I think he's been one of the most coherent voices on this conflict that's out there, to be honest with you. I mean, he combines his expertise with the Middle East, which is really unmatched, with his philosophical understanding of events, which is quite profound. And he's come to the same conclusions that we've come to. I mean, we came to them sooner, I think, for different reasons. But he's now, I think, in our boat. I haven't heard the episode completely, but I've seen some of the conversation with you, and I've seen some of it unfold on social media. So I like that there are objectivists out there who are independent-minded and strong enough to break with the freaking pack. And I'm glad to say, Michael, that you were right. And I'm glad that you convinced me. I was a hawk on Iran. I still hate the fucking guts of the regime. I want them to die an unpleasant and miserable death, as unpleasant and miserable as possible. I hope the Mossad hunts down every person in the fucking regime and kills them without mercy. I really want them to crumble, and I want the Persian culture to rise up and become an independent, free people. That's probably not going to happen, but I would still like it to happen. It's not going to. I'm still on the side of Israel, even though they're the head of their government, Netanyahu, is a pragmatist and a smarter, more polished pragmatist than Trump, but certainly doesn't necessarily lead Israel the way and conduct the war to protect the lives of Israelis the way he should. He seems to be just as, if not more, interested in maintaining his power than protecting the lives of the citizens over there in Israel. So look, I mean, in the end, I look at this sort of the way Jim does. Is it possible that the Iranian regime has been weakened enough that the people can take over? Maybe. I don't know, though. I don't hold up much hope. I like you, Michael. I think Trump is too loose a cannon, too unprincipled, too much of an unknown. And I think if he did make the right moves, it would be a mistake on his part, or not a mistake. It would be a luck. It would just be blind luck.
Yeah, Jim. This Mark says something here that gets me thinking. And I'll use an analogy, and then I'll actually speak of this. So people on Facebook that are in the objectivist camp criticizing libertarians, which I've done myself. I've debated them. Right. Okay. Their criticisms are not accurate. For instance, they said libertarianism, the essence of libertarianism is anarchy, was one of the things. I said, well, that's not really true. I mean, there's a lot of different camps. If anything, the problem is it's too eclectic and you have too many different camps around. Then it was none of them, they don't believe in objective law. Well, that's really not true either. I mean, Rothbard, you may disagree with his concept of objective law, which I do, but he nevertheless thinks there are objective rules, objective laws, natural law that he got, by the way, from Ayn Rand. And then, so I come in, I said, well, it's just what you're saying isn't accurate. It's just not true, and then they act as if I'm defending libertarians, which I'm not.
Right.
And it's a similar thing. When I say I don't agree, I don't think we should go to war with Iran, I'm not defending the Iranians. I'm defending the United States.
We can't. I mean, it's bizarre within the objectivist community. The paranoia of being even sounding like a libertarian really, I think, causes some cognitive dissonance. There's no question about it. You're going to tell me that, just take, for example, the anti-immigration libertarians, officially they're anti-immigration. Now, how does that square with anarchism? And so, yeah, you're right. The problem is that they're too eclectic. They lack a coherent philosophy. And I think that is what's really the underlying thing. They're too big a tent, as you point out. And but, the libertarians are such a grab bag that, of course, they have stolen many ideas from objectivism or Austrian economics. And so we, who sympathize with objectivism will often find things that overlap. And we can't be afraid of that overlap. That is to say, we have to own it. If they're saying something that is similar to what we're saying, distinguish ourselves, absolutely distinguish ourselves. But on the other hand, to be afraid of every libertarian slogan out there. I'm never going to use this taxation is theft slogan, for example.
Right. Well,
wait a minute. If it's a disconnected slogan that is a front for anarchy, okay. But if you're making the argument that Ragnar Danisjöld made in Atlas Shrugged, if you're putting it in the context of a philosophical argument, then I don't see anything wrong with it. We can't be religious. We can't be dogmatic in our opposition to every slogan out there.
Right.
That would be a religious approach in my view.
I think we should be defined by what we're for, not by what we oppose.
Yes, that's very important.
And like you said, what am I going to do? I hear libertarians like to shower as well. Should I give that up? I mean, it's a sort of imbecilic thing. I want to mention something. It's not in the title, but speaking of libertarians and objectivists, Augustina Vergara Cid, formerly now, I guess, of the Ayn Rand Institute, it doesn't say it in the article, but I saw it on her social media. She is now with Reason Magazine, which she writes for Reason Magazine.
Oh,
so
great.
Yeah,
great.
I think that's a great move for them. I think
for sure.
She writes some great stuff. And in the
by the way, she was in my class at Objectivist Academic Center.
Objectivist Academic Center?
Yeah, well, now it's like Ayn Rand University, but at the time it was Objectivist Academic Center.
Yeah, it was suggested to me that I go there for some
you have a great
reprogramming of some sort.
No, you don't get reprogrammed. You actually, you learned objectivism from a deeper perspective, and you also contrast it with other philosophies. But that's what you did already, so it's not.
I'm confident I don't need it. But either way, not that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I don't think I need it. But either way, Augustine is great, and she had an article in Reason Magazine today about foreigners that have fought in wars, and she has one of my absolute favorite foreigners of all time, the Marquis de Lafayette.
Yeah,
who as a young man volunteered to come over here and fight. That was awesome.
And might I say, when he was buried, asked to be buried in American soil here in France. So American soil was actually shipped to France, and he's buried in American dirt, my friends.
That's awesome. Not that he's buried, but you get the drift. What'd you think of the article, though, guys? Did you read it, Mark? Did you have a chance? I know
that was the one I had a chance to listen to. Yeah, it was great. I didn't know that she wrote it. That's amazing.
You didn't see who wrote the article?
No, because I had to listen to it while I was doing other things, my friend. You know, the show, you send me stuff when I'm in the middle of my afternoon here. Like, we were starting to do a read-through of a movie out here, so I had stuff to prepare and do. I could only listen to it while I was in the middle of it, so I didn't see that she was the author. It was fantastic.
It was.
I love heroes.
Yes. Jim, what were your thoughts on this article about foreigners fighting for America, coming here to fight?
It's a great insight. You know, America is defined by a set of ideas. It's not defined by ethnicity or religion or race or all those other things. And so really, these kind of articles are very helpful. It really shows what makes America unique and special. No question about it, whether you're from Germany or Poland or wherever. And of course, we needed to broaden still further from that. I mean, you know, some of the, you know, it's not exactly parallel because these were the children and grandchildren of Japanese immigrants. But, you know, even as in World War II, as America was fighting the Japanese and unjustly interring into concentration camps, Japanese Americans who were, in nearly all cases, perfectly loyal people, being unjustly rounded up and put into concentration camps. At the same time, there were Japanese units fighting for the American government against their ancestral homeland. And the examples are many along these lines. You know, many people who, when they immigrate to the United States, they'll sign up for a tour of duty in the military. That will give them a quicker path to citizenship if they've somehow managed to navigate our evil visa system and get in here on a temporary basis. Signing up for the military can fix it. What can I say? Yeah, we have a long and rich tradition of being the beneficiaries of immigration in this country. When we say America is a nation of immigrants, we ought to mean it. Every time a new wave of immigration came to America, whether it was Irish because of a potato famine, or Chinese, Italians, Jews, I could go down the list, there was a hue and cry by the people here. Oh my goodness, we're being invaded by these foreigners, and our culture is going to be swamped. And it turned out they were wrong each and every time. In fact, there's a phenomenon where the children or grandchildren of immigrants become strangers to their parents and grandparents. They acculturate, and suddenly you don't have to follow the ways of the old country, while still integrating, mind you, whatever value they're bringing with them from the old country. Chinese food and Italian food, for example, are some of the most popular foods in America. So if something is a value and you're bringing it from your culture, we'll integrate it. You know, this is a concept, the melting pot, which is much derided, but is a reality that I've seen with my own eyes. Absorbing the good qualities of foreign cultures, while at the same time changing the children and grandchildren of immigrants into Americans within the course of a generation or two. But look, America owes so much to immigrants. Ayn Rand, Andrew Carnegie, I could go down a long list of major contributors to the United States who were themselves immigrants.
Now, I just want to share this. This is from Persephone. To me, this is absolutely disgusting from this asshole, Matt Walsh. He says, I don't want to give the Statue of Liberty to France, but I do think we should remove that dumb poem about the huddled masses and send that to them. They can attach it to the Eiffel Tower or something. America is not an international homeless shelter.
Well, leave it to Matt Walsh not to understand what that meant. Because it says huddled masses yearning to be free. It's not just about people, who don't have a country or a home. It's about people wanting to be free, which is the essence of what makes America America. And the conservatives have lost the thread, man. They've simply lost the narrative.
Yeah. Jim, what are your thoughts? Let them have it.
The poem was constructed before the American welfare state came into existence, sir. The poem was written by an American. That's the American part. of the Statue of Liberty. The statue was built in France. The good part, that he doesn't want to send home. So, I mean, his jingoism is, kind of showing there. Well, what can I say? The fact is, yeah, people suffer. Their suffering abroad is sometimes the direct result of the oppression that they face abroad, and the alternative of freedom. The fact that America was a place where people who were suffering from oppression could escape to. I mean, two great examples come to mind there: Ayn Rand and Ludwig von Mises. One escaped the Nazis, the other escaped the Soviet communists. And thank goodness there was a place for them to escape to.
Did Einstein come here too?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He absolutely did. He'd visited America before, but he didn't take up permanent residence until the Nazis were starting to hunt Jews all over from the four corners of Europe. And so Jewish intellectuals like Einstein and Ludwig von Mises had to hightail it out of there. What Hitler would have done to him if he got those guys. So,
okay, so fuck Matt Walsh. That's the take. We could get him out of the country, and he won't even have to pay an exit tax. But so Vance Ginn, who we've had on this program, I've had him on the Rational Egoist. I've also been on his program from the American Institute for Economic Research. Wrote an article today about states wanting to tax people who leave. Now, it's complicated because it's not legal to actually put an exit tax on them, but what they're doing is making it retroactive to when people live there so that they can tax, because the rich want to get the hell out of, for instance, the great state where both of you live for some reason, California. No, I kid, because I'd like to live there as well, but these billionaires, people want to live. And Vance Ginn, in my view, rightly says, why not think about why these people want to leave instead of trying to tax them for doing so? What is it about your state that makes people want to get the hell out? And he also points out that, when you kick out these billionaires, you're not just getting rid of, or you're not kicking them out. When they leave because of onerous regulations, onerous taxation, they often are taking jobs with them, innovations with them, all kinds of things. Greg Lewis with the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, Greg. Jim, your thoughts on this? I'd ask Mark, but Mark has turned into a picture of Frankie.
Well, he's back.
He's back. All right, Mark, what are your thoughts on this, Mark? Did you hear me?
I did. I hope you can hear me okay. Yeah, look, people are leaving California because the California state legislature and the people of California, frankly, who vote in these onerous taxes and laws, don't like businessmen, and they've declared open war on billionaires. And so, the capital is leaving. They don't want to be here anymore, and I don't blame them. We have the highest energy costs, I think, in the country, the highest gas costs in the country. Our real estate market is tanked because of local regulations and environmental regulations. Our energy market's tanked, and our grid's overtasked because of the terrible energy policies that our left-wing politicians have made the law of our particular land. And so we're hemorrhaging about 350,000 middle class, upper middle class, and rich folks every single year. Of course, they're replaced by some immigrants who are coming from the South, which to me is the outcome of any statist type of organization. Eventually, you tax the middle class enough, you only have room for the rich and the poor. They literally do away with the economic middleman and create a feudalistic type of society, the very thing they claim to be avoiding, that they claim capitalism creates. That's what they end up creating with their onerous taxation. And Michael, I'd be out of here if it weren't for jiu-jitsu, my jiu-jitsu headquarters in LA. I would be out too. It's crazy that just one little academy is enough to make me eat all of the taxation crap that I have to, and take all of the theft and abuse that I have to over there. But that's literally the only thing keeping me there.
Well, can I ask Mark a question? Mark,
Yeah.
Does the proposed wealth tax encourage you or discourage you to leave California?
Oh, that would encourage. Well, that would encourage me, even though the idea, they threw this law out there a while ago, James. I don't know if you recall, but I think they wanted the wealth tax to follow people who emigrated out of California for 10 years or something like that.
Well, the Supreme Court has, we have the, in effect, negative commerce clause, and we also have a fundamental right to travel. And so I'm hoping that some of that crap can be, the Supreme Court will recognize it as being inconsistent with the right to travel, which has been articulated by the Supreme Court. And of course, the dormant commerce clause would also suggest to me that that is a violation of the Constitution. So that crap about following you and so forth. But it's also fundamentally unfair. I mean, if I haven't realized the capital gain, if I've been sitting on my property for, let's say, decades, and I haven't realized, I haven't cashed in on an asset that has actually increased in value, you're putting me in a completely unfair and impossible situation when you tax me on the value, the current value of it. I haven't realized that gain. It's just insanely unjust, and it's going to have really damaging if it actually goes through and they want to do what they do. Look, Holly and I, we're not billionaires, but do you know how much money we would save in income tax if we moved to Texas or Wyoming?
Oh my God! Don't even tell me. Don't even tell me.
I won't give you a specific number, but
dollars. I have
it's frightening.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars down the California waste hole, and not only that, Jim, but also in Canada where I work, they automatically take 23% of my earnings off the top. That is hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars that I put into the Canadian welfare state that I've never benefited from in any way.
Right.
Gone. Now that goes
to the California welfare state and green state, even if you move out for the next 10 years.
Wait a second. Don't you use the roads? You use the roads in Canada, right?
Yes, I know. Yes.
You didn't build that.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But I also paid more than probably 90% of the Canadians who do use them. So it's like, and here our state tax is what, 13%, James? Is it 13% now? 13% of my income goes to this crap state. And still, when I'm driving on the 405, my suspension gets dropped out by the potholes. And also, I don't know how you feel about property tax. I think it's onerous, but this last year, James, somebody assessed our property tax and tacked on about $4,000 or $5,000 extra dollars for the year, based on what? I don't know. It's accrued some value to somebody, but nobody came out and actually inspected our place, and so I'm being taxed on that value, even though, again, I'm not seeing anything from it.
Keep talking for a second. I'm sending an email.
What do you think of that? What do you think of the property taxes in California, man?
Well, famously, of course, 40 some years ago, California had Proposition 13, which was going to limit the amount of property taxes to 1% of the assessed value. So when you talk about these assessments, that's where the action is. If we can get your property assessed higher and higher and higher, of course, we can move you up and get more money for it, from you, even if it's just the 1%. But of course, they've done some workarounds from Proposition 13. In any case, taxation is theft.
It is theft.
It is
and
indeed.
Let me just tell you something interesting. This is the second time this happened that I've got an email from this guy. So I just booked him, Adam Michel. He's the director of tax policy studies at Cato. So I just booked him for the Rational Egoist. But what I'm interviewing him about taxing billionaires. This is the second time I've gotten an email from him while talking about taxing billionaires on this show. So maybe Jung was onto something. What do I know?
I'll go further than taxes or theft. Taxes are a kind of slavery.
Go sick, Jim. Go sick. Piss off.
No, I understand the difference between the brutality of real chattel slavery versus taxation. I mean, at least I get to pick my job. At least, but the whole system, our whole system of taxation is just downright evil. So I have to work 13% of my time for California. Oh, I have to work 30% of my time for the federal government. So we're about now at 50% of my time, and they can change that at any time. So that what I'm doing in effect is I'm basically 40 to 50% their slave.
That's it. That's true. It's involuntary servitude.
It's involuntary servitude. I mean, we come back to John Locke, the great political philosopher from more than 300 years ago. I know I'm generally characterizing his broad argument, but his broad argument.
No, but you grew up together.
We grew up together. Hey, Johnny. No, basically his argument boils down to you've got a choice: private property and a real respect for private property, or some form of slavery. And he's absolutely, ultimately, that is our choice, politically speaking.
Yes.
And the income tax adds all kinds of evils to it. I mean, withholdings. Oh, you have to calculate. Can you imagine any other bill like this? You have to calculate how much you owe us, and heaven help you if you don't get the calculation correct. Normally when I purchase something, they tell me how much I owe them for the toaster or whatever. Not so the government when it comes to income tax. I have to calculate my own taxes according to their rules, and I better get it right.
Hey, James, did you hear this? Oh, we'll deal with this first because this is
You read it, Mark. I think it'd be better for you to read it.
Thank you, Rob.
You're an actor.
Thank you for that $5. It's a great pleasure to see Mr. Liebowitz, Valliant, and Pellegrino on one screen. I agree with you. We are the Three Musketeers.
We are. And we could see it far more often if the two of them didn't sell me out on a regular basis.
Well, luckily, Michael, you're keeping the channel afloat, you and Persephone. Between the two of you, thank you for saving me because I have to spend so much time elsewhere. Hey, but I want to read this out to you guys and see what you think of this. This is from Greg Lewis. Michigan is trying to get around the Homestead Act, claiming that putting a new roof on a house allows the taxes to be reset as effectively as a sale and purchase. These guys in state governments and the federal government, I don't want to exclude them, are fucking grifters, man. They are the worst kinds of thieves. They are creative at one thing, and that is figuring out ways to steal your freaking money from you.
See, it's an aggravated form of theft, isn't it? They make thieves, ordinary thieves, look like pikers, right?
Yes,
but it may be a minimal form of slavery, but it's an aggravated form of theft.
Yeah. Let's really just piss people off because I'm going to bring in the great Lysander Spooner on this one.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Might get struck by lightning. Anyway, Lysander Spooner gives a great metaphor. And he talks about a highwayman, the stick-up guys on the highway back in the day. And he said, at least these guys, you pass by them, they rob you, and then they leave you alone. They don't follow you down the highway and keep robbing you because that's what the government does. They just keep it up
and expect it every quarter.
Right. So Jenna Klein compares us three to the Three Stooges. Which one would I be? That's the question.
Well, you're curly.
Are you out of your mind?
No, you got the hair.
It's got nothing to do with the hair. I'm Mo, and everybody knows it.
You are not Mo.
Yes, I am.
Not Mo.
I'm the one that clinks your heads together and throw Persephone in there.
I'm not going to compete.
No.
Yeah.
Well, who do you think I am? I'm going to regret this. Who do you think I am?
You're probably Curly because he's kind of like the absent-minded ditzy one.
No. I'm not Curly.
Yeah. No. You're kind of you're a Mimbo. Or a himbo, a little bit.
No, you know what I am? I'm a Marx brother. I'm Harpo.
Well, I'd prefer Groucho. But either way, so I wanted to get to this AI stuff before we move on. So this Pope, the popes are fond of putting out, in my view, some pretty evil stuff, some pretty bad
evil
stuff. So this guy, it's called the Magnifica Humanatis. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Maybe not. He says he released a sweeping statement on artificial intelligence yesterday, warning that technology could deepen inequality, erode trust, and concentrate power without clearer guardrails. It's an 83-page cyclical. Basically, it's just a criticism of AI. And there was also a pretty good article here in AEI that I really liked because it talked about shaping the humans who run the machines. And the point that the article makes is that ultimately AI does not have free will. It doesn't have independent agency. It's dependent on the people that are running it. What we need are people with intelligence and character. That's the focus. That's where it should be. That's what the article said. What do you two, Larry and Curly, have to say?
You go ahead first, James.
Oh,
Which one is James though?
Well,
Well,
if you're
I'm not
Curly,
going- I'm
he's
not
obviously
Curly.
Larry. I said you were.
I am not Curly.
You're Curly.
Oh my lord! All right.
I'm gonna submit a bunch of our discussions to AI, and I'm gonna ask it which one of us most resembles Curly.
Okay.
You do that.
Make sure you
and
put
I'm
pictures
sure
on there too.
There's no
The
pictures.
thing about AI is you will get a brilliant answer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how it'll pan out, and I will reject the comparison altogether, but it will work hard to try and make that comparison, and it will try and provide reasons for that, which is just how uncreative it is as an intellect. And your point about character and creativity really being the keys here. But you know, I think there's a broader point here. When a new technology comes about, whether it's the printing press or the written word, writing was a revolution. It did horrible things for human memory, right? People could memorize a poem as long as the Iliad and perform it over a series of nights. Okay, there were bards who could memorize poems, epic poems like the Iliad or the Odyssey, and transmit them in a perfectly oral tradition for centuries with reasonable fidelity. And so writing was bad for memory. Yeah. It shapes us. The technology will shape us too. We interact with the technology in effect, and ditto with the printing press. Did it shatter the church's hold over the monopoly on knowledge? Yeah, it sure did. You know, isn't that funny? Around 1850, in the 1850s, Gutenberg comes up with this printing press, and then you know, within
much earlier.
Yeah, not the 1850s. Jim.
No, 1450s. Sorry. I say 18?
He was thinking about his birthday.
I was thinking about my birthday, right? No, the 1450s is when the printing press was invented. But look at what happened. I mean, by 1511, Martin Luther is, you know, posting his, you know, thing on the church wall. So, we have to attend to our moral characters all the more urgently, perhaps. Yeah. We have to focus on developing our own skills, unique skills and creative talents. Yeah. We have to think about being creative individuals. Yeah. A lot of mindless jobs are going to go away. Yeah, that's true. And to the extent that they're mindless and can be replaced artificially, they ought to be, with all due respect, Your Holiness. It will not increase inequality. It will increase wealth, all other things being equal, and across the board in society. But it is typical of someone like the Pope, for example, to be a total socialist Luddite. The church is opposed. The church opposed the American Revolution. The church opposed. I mean, what can you say? You know, there were, believe it or not, there were Christians in Scotland who, when anesthesia was introduced, thought it was evil to give women in childbirth anesthesia, because after all, that was the punishment of Eve.
Well, also, you know, James, you could correct me if I'm wrong. From what I understand, they had anesthesia in the time of the Civil War, but because it was against church doctrine, did not use it. And the number of men who got limbs amputated without the benefit of anesthesia, all that torture and pain could squarely put on the shoulders of a church that passed on this kind of dogmatic ignorance. And you know, fuck it. Look. I'm with James. Technology does change us. We adapt to it. We change with it. AI, you know, it may increase inequality in this sense. It can make some people who do not have access. Excuse me, I just got something in my eye.
Oh no.
Yeah, something bad. Anyway,
Is there something good to get in the eye?
Yeah, there could be something good. Sure, of course. A nice soothing drop for your eye could be good. But a dust mote or a piece of
That generally don't come into your eye out of nowhere.
Sure, they do. Yeah, of course they do. But I live in a miraculous universe, Michael.
With the Pope.
With the Pope. No, I mean, I also think it can increase the range and accessibility to knowledge and creativity of people who are on the lower realms of the economic spectrum as well. It's going to lift them up too and make them more productive too. So as James said, it's going to make us all a lot wealthier if we don't fight it. Now, are there going to be bad actors? Yeah. Are there going to be some social dislocations? Of course, there always are with new technologies. But a lot of the pain of those social dislocations is magnified by our responses to them. And some of the responses that are starting to occur now, Michael, which is the federal government trying to control this technology, state governments trying to control this technology, the Pope now coming out against this technology, all the regressives out there trying to hold back what could be a great diagnostic tool, what could be, I heard from an executive in a pharmaceutical who said AI will benefit the invention and innovation of pharmaceutical medicines because it will reduce our what is it, experiment load by exponentially from say 6,000 experiments to 3. It will literally narrow the range to such a degree that drugs can be approved very, very, very quickly or discovered very, very quickly. This has a global capacity to affect us on such a global level across so many spectrums of knowledge and value pursuit that it's really something that shouldn't be held back, but it will be.
Well, think about it. The assembly line, the mechanized assembly line that Henry Ford gave us, increased the productivity of physical labor when it came to building things like cars, right? When you're talking about AI, you're talking about the productivity of mental labor. For example, with the testing of new drugs or the development of new, the examples spread out in every direction, of course. Engineers, doctors, you name it, can use AI. So it's going to increase the productivity of mental effort.
Yeah.
That is going to have, if increasing the productivity of physical labor has that kind of impact on total wealth in a society, consider the potential that this has in terms of increasing. Lesser productivity gains are subsumed in those productivity gains of the mind.
Yes.
That AI can do. So we'll have a Henry Ford every, however often they pump out, but they'll be pumping out at a greater rate. It's the rate at which we pump out Henry Ford creativity. It seems to me that it's also, so long as the world is the way it is, you're trying to hold back you're trying to make water run uphill by trying to hold back this technology.
Yes.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders, China, and the Pope, right?
So they go into a bar. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. So I'm going to read off the answers here from the other day's question. Jim's going to give the capitalist thought of the day, and Mark is going to ask the question. So the question was, what holidays, if do you celebrate Memorial Day, and what if not, what if you're in another country, what do you do? So Teresa says Canada celebrated Victoria Day last weekend. May 18th, Akira Felix says nothing. Years ago, he used to watch war documentaries with his stepdad. Jenna Kleem says she spends her time just thinking of the war dead and what a waste it all is. And Bob Dobbs says, ironically, the stealing of the 2020 election is by far the most absurd of the conspiracy theories that we talked about the other day. All right, Jim, you're the capitalist thought of the day guy.
Well, in light of Memorial Day, and to, I guess, refute the those who think that I'm a sympathizer of anarchism and libertarians, let me just say that, yeah, freedom ain't free. And it does require the use of physical force in the face of aggression. Many times it's forced on us, as you pointed out earlier in the show. War is a necessity if we hope to remain free, at least sometimes. We don't eagerly go for war, but when American liberty is at stake, when American lives are at stake, yeah, it is necessary to use force under certain circumstances. And that is why capitalism is not consistent with anarchy. It is, if the government exists to protect individual rights, and I do think that is the sole function of government, then it must do so, and it must do so aggressively. Let me put it that way. We often look at rights as a negative thing. We're responding to the aggressive use of force, and that's true. But don't confuse, when force is threatened, we need to use all the force that is appropriate to end the threat. That's the only way to preserve freedom and to protect individual rights, because capitalism is the system that protects individual rights.
Awesome, Jim. All right, Mark. I hope you've got a good question to ask. You've had
No,
plenty
no,
of time.
I have a feeling you're going to laugh at me, Michael. You're going
I
to pull a
won't.
Mo. And here's what I'm going to do. You know what that is, right?
Whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah.
That is my curly defense against your eye poke. All right, I want to ask people out there, what is the best horror movie of all time? You have to come up with one. I know it's difficult. The best horror movie of all time. Please go to YouTube and answer that question. The algorithm really likes it when you do stuff like that. All right. Is that a good one, Michael? Am I good?
That's great. Please join us today, Persephone and I, for Everyday Ethics, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this channel. The Rational Alternative is the name of the YouTube channel. Please follow us on everywhere: YouTube, Spotify. What the hell's the other one there? What I forgot. Twitch. Yes, on Twitch. Do it all, but join us also today, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark, you got to do the thing where you take us out.
Hey, I tell you what, Capitalist Corner is going to be on in 23 hours. You need to join us. You got 23 hours to check your premises. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here from the Dark Continent. So make sure you check your premises. Peace.